Hello everyone, this is Alan Scorpio. In this video, we will go through chapter 5 of the ebook, From Western to Chinese Astrology. This is the content of our discussion, the core concept in Chinese astrology, the coincidence of fortune telling and Ebook path application, comparing 五行 situation and annual professions, 奇門遁甲, why the early bunches is more important than heavenly stem, the alternating of mathematics equations, similarity of concepts in day and night charts in Chinese astrology, the way of manipulating 12 hours in modern 紫微斗数, manipulating the 12 houses in modern 紫微斗数, the major 40 stars of 紫微斗数, the concept of ACG which makes bytes 紫微斗數 valid. This chapter will have a deep analysis in some critical elements in Chinese astrology, the true form of fate omna, what is 五行 situation, and lastly, 紫微斗數 40 major stars. In chapter 3, we know the early bunches are more significantly impact to the status of the fate omna, and early bunches are easy to relate to with the real planets. By the more advanced consideration of the Ebook path equation, more addition or subtraction of planets, we construct an equation which matches with the explanation of day pillar. In chapter 3, the day early bunches represent the moon position by the use of approximation about the agency cycle. Hence, the heaven stem also can work in the agency cycle, which we try to divide 360 degrees by 60, which is to find out a result of 6 degrees. In order to facilitate our discussion, we use an Excel which put 3 to the power 7 situation, a total of 2,187 combinations about the 7-star involvement in the mathematical equation. 0 denote the planet is not involved. 1 denote the planet is a positive side. -1 denote the planet is in a negative side. 2 denote the planet is in a negative side. We are interested in finding any combination which involves all of these planets, which are having positive 1 or negative 1, which is 2 in the row, and the result of the equation which is given a summarize of 6 degrees, and this yellow highlighted one are those results. In addition, as we know, the synod period of the sun and the moon defines Chinese astrology's monthly pillar. The equation must involve of a positive moon minus a sun, which has taken account of the synod period and the lunisolar calendar as the foundation. Finally, we adopt this equation, which the moon and the Saturn are at the positive side. Due to Saturn has many karmatic relationships and its special revolution ratio with the year pillar, which is 29.5 almost with the year to have one cycle, and you remember the gearing cycle of 354, it is done by 29.5 times 12, which involves 29.5 also. The average movement per day becomes 5.93436 degrees, which is almost 6 degrees per day. And in very old myths, fortune teller believe fate omna are the balancing status of 五行, which this equation can account accordingly to lunisolar calendar and also involvement of every 五行 star, plus some karmatic cultural values which Chinese owned. Last page provides a comprehensive application of Ebook path And we could make it simple by using the variation method of Chinese horoscope method in using 4 early bunches, year, month, day, and hour to determine if the event is luck or misfortune. If we use this illustration way of chapter 3 about the lunisolar calendar operation, firstly, the year, which provides the Tai Shu, it is a mirror of position of Jupiter, or a so-called a reversed version of Jupiter. And then the month number and the Chinese hour, it provides a certain information. And lastly, the day pillar is the moon phase according to the sun. By considering the moon early bunches, we know the sun position, and the day early bunches provide the additional of how many houses the moon travel more than the sun. Then we can form a specific formula. As year pillar provide a negative magnitude of Jupiter information, it becomes ascendant plus the moon and minus the Jupiter. So it is also a algebraic path equation you can find. It is called loss of luck. As you can see, loss of fortune and loss of luck, this kind of equation, which have just coincident to match with the Chinese translate wording, where Chinese astrology care so much. As I am just a very small potato, many people can doubt on my study, but I am not the only one who try to say this. Please refer to this link below, which one of the greatest master of Western astrology in the world, or a professor who studying cultural things, also having this kind of comments about Western astrology is influence on the Chinese astrology. Then we move on to Wu Xin situation, which is very important in Chinese astrology to determine the status of a person in Jiwei Dao Shu. There are 10 heavenly stamps, but we have to put them in ordering to the 12 houses, which is the 12 pacer, which the prediction of life event actually occurs there. The Wu Xin are following in the order of wood, fire, earth, metal, water, as the heavenly stamp progresses. The alphabet of A to E represent the different kinds of 5 elements. So, as the time progresses by annual, which the representation of the Wu Xin guarding a person will change accordingly. Like this, changing. Here, demonstrate for the different starting of Wu Xin. For example, in the 11th and 12th year, they are always the same with the first and second year. Wood versus wood, fire versus fire, earth versus earth. Remember the annual profession in last chapter? This time, the time frame is being fixed, but having 5 different of combination as listed as the right side for different Wu Xin situation. Let's take a short summary here. When comparing of annual profession of Western astrology and the year heavenly stamp of Chinese astrology, Western astrology is based on the rulership of the 12 signs. Chinese astrology is not using earthly bunches, which 12 early bunches are very aligned with the 12 zodiac signs. Instead, the year heavenly stamp, which is as the Chinese astrology version of rulership, which contains only 5 kinds. Whether classical Western astrology takes 7 planets. The modern Western astrology have taken 10 with additional of 3 planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Another critical evidence of early branches is more important to heavenly stem in Chinese astrology is the setting up of 奇門遁甲. We can see the Earth page is about 8 kilograms, which gives the definition of the universe position. And then the spiritual page, which is having 12 early branches to set up the 8 doors or the 8 gates, which is the original position. There is no individual system of heavenly stem in defining the position of heavenly stem. And another interesting thing for Chinese astrology in explaining 12 early branches is the relationship with the heavenly stem. The proportion is not ever explained for years, which is known as defined by the Chinese wording 人緣師領. They derive the 300th degree of a circle as a year of 360 degrees, which is related to the month early branches about the heavenly stem and the early branches, which in 吉平白字, other than month, both the year, day, and hour period sharing this heavenly stem proportion among the related early branches. As we have pointed out, using the same explanation of the interrelationship of these 4 individual pillars may be too plain to describe them, especially among each individual system. They are representing of different universal position and they run in clockwise or anti-clockwise direction. This is 奇門遁甲, the 4 different of pages. Red, the earth page; blue, the spiritual page; green, the heavenly page; and the orange is the star page, which have the god of yin and yang. We have tried to put into square form which can match with the postnatal kilogram. You can see the number is about the postnatal kilogram. To facilitate our comparison with Western astrology, we make it to concentric circle representation. In this presentation way, it only fails to address the number 5 of the fighting star, and the other numbers are kept here. If you have been using the Western astrology software, you will feel very familiar on the multi-chart presentation way, which is combining several of the predictive techniques together. When it is comparative to the 奇門遁甲, the earth page serves as the native chart. The spirit page is the representation of actual and ascendant, which in 奇門遁甲, the door of the spirit page moves 1 gauge per Chinese hour. The star page have the god called Tai Yin, which is the alternative naming of Tai Shu. So we know it is related to the year pillar and lefting the heaven page to be the monthly pillar by the method of elimination. So from the earth page, it is the native chart of asking the event. The spirit page found out the law of an hour or the progressed ascendant. The heaven pen tells about the information of the sun, which combines with the progressed ascendant to knowing the location of sun is at which houses, and this kind of determination is like horoscope astrology in Western astrology. Finally, the star page provides the Tai Shu, which is the reverse motion of Jupiter in terms of the annual rulership information. As Chinese astrology tried to subdivide the 360-degree circle into micro parts, this is a more detailed dodecahedral concept in Eastern astrology. which is the creation of micro and equal parts calling Ju. Every day having 12 Chinese hours as the sun moves around 1 degree per day. So within 1 degree there will be 12 Ju. Thus by 360 degree times 12 will have 4,320 Ju, which is believed to be created by the Yellow Empire at the most primitive form of Qi Mun Den Zha. The modification of the algebraic parts mathematical equation from laws of fortunes to the direction of monthly earthly branches are the significator, which is originally in the are the triggers, which is original in negative side, and they are being counted as positive side after all. So the original progress of angle by 1 year going 1 degree will become 1 year moving 3 degrees. Further to the male or female phase situation, the negative of positive side is at the front of the equation. Then it can mix the direction to move anti-clockwise or clockwise just because of the front mathematical side, positive or negative. From Qi Mun Den Zha, Chinese astrology have a similar concept of day and night chart as Western astrology, which both are depending on the position of the sun. For the development of new 12-pacer system from the original of Taoist 紫微斗数 to modern 紫微斗数, it looks like the system are totally modified, but for the life pacer, which is the first one, and the spiritual space and the spiritual fortune pacer, which is the 11th one, these two are remains the same between the two 紫微斗数 system. This diagram helps to present the two different systems into square, but look that we are using the merge house system to present it, because finding star techniques is the thing which makes Chinese astrology unique from Western astrology, and finding star is using the night pacer that is a kind of merge house presentation of the 12 house system. To have an apple-to-apple comparison, we have to keep them in the merge house presentation way. So, if we try to check this new ordering of pacer from the finding star techniques, shall we review some clues to the development of the modern 紫微斗数 system? Let's have a very brief idea to you what is Taoist finding star first. This is the original finding star, telling the literature about it, and we can make a paper strip which has two sides, the yin and the yang side. By folding the paper strip in this pattern, then we can make an overall three-dimensional pattern which shows out this number are both located in the yin and yang side. And this one, if we just put this three-dimensional thing into a two-dimensional page, we will see a pattern like this, which is the finding star magic square. So, the original of Taoist has tried to describe the observation of the bigger dipper is like this. If we look at the finding star's mathematical properties, which it forms a magic square, we just using those numbers and try to match up with the merge house presentation of the 12 pacer. So the magic square, we have to rotate it 90 degrees, which is at the actual place, and the number one is moved to this side of the actual. So by doing this kind of rotation, the number one has been left to coincident with the first placer, which is at the actual places. Then we try to compare the modern 紫微斗数 12 placer with the Taoist 紫微斗数 12 placer together. As you can see in the merge house presentation, the first one light placer are at the same position because we try to align them here. But you can also check out about the second one. Originally it is about a financial placer. It is shifted due to the falling star and go to this side. So it also match with the pattern of modern 紫微斗数 in some bits. And the third one we want to see is about property and residential placer. It is shifted due to the falling star also. Number 3 becomes these places. And if we look, it also match with the pattern of modern 紫微斗数. And so, about the spiritual and fortune placer as the 11 one in original houses, the number 8 here. And you may ask, the rest of the placer is out of match, and because you can see some of them has already alternating of the landing, or the falling star is original in number of 9. So that is modified where does it go, and other things may changes. Let's have a deep analysis to the 14 major star of 紫微斗数, which is also known as imaginary star. The arrangement of the 6 imaginary stars of the Bigger Dipper are always in ordering. When 紫微 start from an early branches, other stars are always based from a particular number of placer from it and in an anti-clockwise direction. So 紫微 plus 1 placer, this is 10G. 紫微 plus 1, 2, 3 placer, it is Taiyan. Plus 4 become 武曲. Plus 5 become Tantong. Plus 8 become Lanjin. The Southern Dipper has 8 imaginary stars always in ordering. It is just doing the same bit but in clockwise direction. When Team Fu is located here, plus 1 placer become Tai Yin, plus 2 become Tan Nan, plus 3 become Ju Mun, plus 4 become Tan Shan, plus 5 become Tang Lang, plus 6 become Qi Sha, plus 10 become Po Jun. If we just considering the 14 major stars and the alternative of mathematics equation of algebraic parts, it can form a very similar formula as the directed moon earthly branches in 西兵白字 at the prediction of 10-year fate. The southern and the Bigger Dipper is related to the front positive or negative side. That keeps the equation to direct clockwise or in anti-clockwise direction. However, it will bring some changes to the elaboration of this 40 star, as the dominated nature to each imaginary star become 2 view planets, which is taking account in algebraic path perspective. 2 significant indicators is showing that dominant property about 2 view planets properties, and makes it confusing to describe one imaginary star solely. As we know, 紫微斗数emphasizes a lot of the relationship between placer, which trinity and opposition occurs, where for the mutually related or complementary relationship. The green triangle denotes as the Trinity aspect in Western astrology. Yellow is the conjunction where the planet is real and really located at a particular house or a sidereal site. For example, Ziwei star has the strong property of Capricorn, which is about 10 houses related keywords. And while the material health is located at the second house, which is Trinity to the 10 houses. Another example, we take Taiyan, which is close to the axis IC. The mass and mass development is about third house. The directness and self-scarify are Trinity to IC, which is about the first house property of Venus, so is directness. The self-scarify is about the 12 houses keywords, and whether frame is opposition aspects to IC, that is the midheaven and the 10 house cap, which relate to a personal frame. As an easy benchmark of Taiyan is related to the sun, Taiyin is related to the moon. Below the moon is the lordship of the Cancer and female characteristic. The inner development of IC, which is also exhibits the properties of 12th house by Trinity. So when we try to search out those keywordings, and this provide one approach to knowing the original real planets, which is the original of some imaginary planets. On behalf of that, it is interesting to have some imaginary star always forming Trinity aspect in scope. For example, the Bigger Dipper, Ziwei, Wuqu, and Langjin are showing strong earth elements properties about the Western astrology, and it is in Trinity. While for the Southern Dipper, Tannan, Qisha, Jun are showing strong 5 elements property of Western astrology, which if we try to have a more fine classification as the Canadian fixed or mutate properties, it is also available according to some of the keywords of those imaginary planets. So we can see there is some Earth element series and Mars as the lordship series in the Ziwei Dao Shu. If you still get confused to the previous 4 pages about the Ziwei Dao Shu stars, we can just use the concept of day and night chart. And because Taiyan in Chinese it means the sun, and Taiyin it is related to it just means the moon in Chinese wording. So the Bigger Dipper, which contains the Taiyan, you can relate it as the day chart concept. And while the Southern Dipper has the Taiyin, which is related as the light chart concept. And so in terms of average paths, one goes clockwise, then another one will go anti-clockwise, as the reverse of the significator and triggers, which result in the mirroring of the lobes to each other. Ziwei Dao Shu is well known to have 144 Ju. These Ju are determined by the year heavenly stem and the life pacer, which is the ascendant. So we can try to establish a relationship about ascendant and the Jupiter. However, if according to our finding, Taiyan is the aberrant path of the sun, which the 144 Ju are more likely to be the pattern of the sun plus the moon plus ascendant in everyday zodiacal, which is always people see in the newspaper everyday zodiacal situation in Chinese word 星座運程。One of the most debatable part in Chinese fortune teller, the 知拼百字 is only available in the North Hemisphere as the 五行 is different than South Hemisphere. People have the same 百字, but living in different places around the world will have different phasing of the qi and having different lives. Not until 紫微斗数 try to explain this in a more astrology perspective. Every people will have a native chart. If you have to use modern 紫微斗数, they will require the birth time of a person which relate to the Chinese city Luoyang. So, having the birth city and shifting the time to the located city as Luoyang will find out the 紫微斗数 native charts about a person. These shares are very similar concept of birth city and living city in Western astrology's concept of ACG, astrocartography. If a person is migrate to another city, his situation will be considered in the living city more related to transit situation. So, in the perspective of 紫微斗数, Luoyang count as the living city and we calculate the chart. According to the difference of time, every 2 hours variation will give a shift of those imaginary stars for one pacer. Then we can combine all of the theory of 紫微斗数 in terms of Western astrology. The imaginary planet are a break-path equation, and the progressive of time is using solar arc direction, which Taiyan is known as the sun in Chinese. The finding of light placer can be referred to chapter 3 by using the month and hour earthly branches when a person's native chart is being recalculated as living city in Luoyang. Besides, the time of programming the charts are taking differences with the initial starting stages of those stars. So, every year the star progresses by 3 degrees. The approximation can be done and the native charts about the 14 major stars can be plotted. Thank you for seeing this video. This chapter is really very abstract. I hope after my explanation you will be more clear at the content of the book. And see you in the final chapter. Bye bye.